Welcome back to the MMA Plug, presented to you by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM Mile High Sports Radio. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz, sitting here alongside UFC middleweight Josh Fremd. If you're following us along online, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for the notifications. This segment, we are going to be breaking down the UFC Q1 honors, as there is no card on any major show that is going on this weekend. So we decided that we would give out a little bit of recognition through the first quadrant of the year. This segment is brought to you by DenverSportsBetting.com. Now, the very first one that we're going to go with, we have to start it off with a bang. We're going to talk the KO of the quarter so far, Josh. Who
KO of the quarter. You know what? It's not recency bias, I promise you. But Molly Meatball and her spinning back elbow knockout has to be knockout of the year, let alone knockout of Q1.
Yeah, I think that hers is a very strong candidate to be potentially both of those, but the counter that I will offer, I think, could also be considered that, just especially by the scene that it created or the carnage that it looked like. And that is Jamal Hill against Johnny Walker.
See, that one looked like a cartoon. Kind of looked like Tom and Jerry. The cat stepping on a rake and just hits you on the head and then falls backwards. But right. Meatball, absolute deadened it.
Yeah, hey, and I'm not trying to take anything away from her. I mean, I think that you could also say that based off of the rarity of the occurrence, that Chris Gutierrez has to be in the conversation too, as an honorable mention.
Yeah, honorable mention.
Because I mean, if we're talking knockout to knockout, his is no different than what Molly did. Again, we just don't see it in the female division knockouts in general from the women. So it stands out a little bit more with Molly. And again, it's not taking away anyone from any of there, but just the big boys, what was at stake, and the almost, cartoonish scene that ensued from the strike itself. That's why I take my pick with Jamal Hill in that situation. Now, Josh, if we were to talk about the submission of the quarter, there's a couple of them that have been out there that were noteworthy and that I think could potentially take the nod here. But who do you have, or who are you thinking as an option here?
I was thinking, show a little more love to the ladies here. Early on, we had the Vanessa Demopoulos, her armbar against Silvana Gomez Juarez. I'm pronouncing that correctly. Former
I love listening to Josh and try to pronounce names.
I am a Neanderthal. Neanderthal. But former LFA alumni, had a amazing setup to this armbar. So slick with it, came out very nice.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more resilient submissions to it as well through the year, because she was getting beat on a little bit by Silvana, who's a striking specialist. But once it hit the ground, and Lil Monster even said that she got flashed.
Yeah.
But once she got down to the ground and once she felt the positioning, she just went to muscle memory. She's trained and drilled that armbar sequence countless times throughout her career, ever since she first initially started training, and jiu-jitsu is her first love. That's her bread and butter. That was a beautiful submission. She obviously then went and captivated audiences worldwide and went viral by jumping into Joe Rogan's arms. Now she has a knack for the theatrics and catching and pulling the spotlight onto her. So shout out to you, Lil Monster. But I think that we also have to give some recognition to Paul Craig against Nikita Krylov a couple weeks ago on that London card. Paul Craig was on the brink of being finished. I mean, again, very potentially got flashed down on the ground while he was in the guard and Nikita was wailing down on top of him. There was a point where it kind of looked like he kind of had the eyes rolled back, but he was able to come back to, stuffs the arm, throws the leg over, and next thing you know, we're wrapping it up.
We're calling the fight. Yeah, on both examples, man, you just fought through adversity. And it's very hard. Like, jiu-jitsu is hard alone, but when you start throwing punches, we're not talking about slaps in combat jiu-jitsu. We're talking about full force punches coming down from the heavens above. Like, to be able to have drilled that so much to when you do get flashed or if you're rocked a little bit, to be able to pull that off, that's why you train jiu-jitsu, baby.
Oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it. I mean, grapplers in general, I feel like when you have that in your back pocket, you can start to do that on autopilot to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Like, especially like wrestlers, even despite when they're dog tired or, just they get rocked, whatever, they seem to always be able to revert to that base and be somewhat in a safe position.
Yeah.
Now, moving along to the biggest hype train thus far in Q1. And I'm not trying to say this at all in the sense of sounding like a hater, because obviously I've sipped on some haterade toward this person a time or two.
Hey, Jordan. You did. I'm not going to say it. He did.
And I'm still not completely beyond that point. I mean, my
you are a hater.
My cuppeth is still half full. But Paddy Pimblett, I think that, the hype is real in the sense that Paddy Pimblett knows how to rock the mic. He knows how to sell. He knows how to captivate and move an entire arena full of fans. But I do also feel like this is a hype train that if there's technical flaws within his game that aren't corrected, will soon be derailed.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has a knack for getting cracked. And watching his interview this past week saying, like, I've gotten cracked in every single one of me fights and no one's going to knock me out. Like, all right. Okay. But I'm going to step out on this one because I agree with you. I think Paddy Pimblett is the biggest, but I think we should have an honorable mention for someone who is also fighting. I can't believe I get to say this. This is so cool. Who's also fighting on the card that I am fighting on next week, and that is Ian McGarry. Ian Gary. Okay. I mean, that's fair too, because Ian Gary was getting his ass kicked every second of that fight against Jordan Williams single
until
second.
He threw that Hail Mary punch at the very end that he caught Jordan on. So yeah, I think that's fair. I guess I didn't consider Ian Gary on the list just because he hasn't fought in 2022 so far, but I think that's fair.
I did say that without the quarter being quarter one. Wow.
But hey, I mean,
that's why we play the game.
That's why we play the game out here. Now, I think story of the year so far in Q1 for me is the Super Smash Brothers.
I think this is a phenomenal story, and it's crazy how you would have never in a million years picked this friendship.
No, but on a realistic note and keeping it objective aside from just being fan of what each of these guys individually bring, I think that it is an incredible move for Darren Till for his career, because what has Darren Till's Achilles heel been in his last few fights? It's been his grappling. It's been his wrestling.
Yeah.
He goes and he spends considerable amount of time in the room with Hamzat just by proxy of training and drilling with that guy. That will elevate his game in those areas.
Yeah, so very smart on Darren Till.
Darren. Yeah, he's Smash Brother. I mean, like I say, it's just they're entertaining, especially like they do their interviews almost like Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly and Step Brothers. Like, the whole like Pan debate, like it's literally like that. They did that to Ariel pretty much the other day. Like, you want to ask questions, you send us money, brother. Like, you ask me question, I need $1,000 per question, brother. Like, otherwise be no answer. We need money. We need money, brother.
We're broke. We're not broke. We just need more of it.
then Ariel asks Darren, like, oh, it's really like, we want the money out of you. We already gave you 20 minutes. If you want more of a time, give us some money. But then, so that parlays it though too. Also, my event so far of the year in Q1 is that UFC London card.
Yeah, I think so far for Q1 that there's nothing topped London. That was extremely extravagant. It was an amazing night. All the people across the pond won. Great knockouts, great submissions. was a great event.
And then you parlay that into the fight of the year so far for Q1. I'm personally going to go with a card with a fight that we already talked about, was just this last weekend. For me, I'm taking the Matt Brown and Brian Barberena fight.
You got no complaints from me, brother. I think that fight was tremendous, and I might go home and watch it again tonight.
Now, I think that there's an honorable mention in the Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis fight.
Yeah.
Derek almost had Tai out of there in the first, and then Tai was able to rally in the second and get the finish. But I also think that we should give a recognition to comeback of the year, and I think that goes to Ilia Topuria. I think Ilia Topuria against Jai Herbert, Ilia comes out right away and gets hurt bad to start. I mean, that kick landed and he was sitting on crooked legs. He manages to get himself through the first, and then not only comes back and wins, but he completely separates Jai Herbert from consciousness out there and wins a bonus over there on that London card.
Great showing of grit and determination, and to be able to come back, level your focus out, and go and get the job done.
And then I think that an honorable mention for comeback of the year has to go to Douglas Silva de Andrade when he had the comeback submission over Sergey Morozov.
It was an absolutely crazy fight.
Josh, I don't know how many times that fight almost ended. That was almost like Pat Barry, Czech Congo type.
It could have been stopped. If you had different refs in there with different perceptions of what was going on, then yeah, maybe a different ref, it would have stopped. Thank goodness it was this ref, not obviously for their health, but we have a great fight and a great memory. It's something to go back and watch. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those that, wow, you see him just figure out a way through the adversity all the way until the very end there. And then rounding us off, fighter of the year so far in Q1. Josh, who do you have?
Francis Ngannou.
Why Francis?
Why Francis? Well, Francis, like we talked earlier, unified the heavyweight belts, did it on a bum knee, but also because, Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, which I'm wrong a fair amount of the time. Didn't he get an email from the UFC in regards to his contract or something while going to the venue for this fight?
Yes.
Now, if you're a professional athlete, you're almost the face of the UFC. You're the heavyweight champion of the world, and you have some BS like that come up on your phone. You know your knee's a little banged up. You know this is a very important fight for not only you, but the future of the UFC and the things that he's been trying to stand up and speak on. To go out and turn from just a powerhouse puncher into a wrestler who is a complete MMA athlete, I think that it has to go to Francis Ngannou.
For all of the reasons that you just said right there, I could not agree more. You have the double leg that was heard around the world. That was spectacular. There were layers and nuances to Francis's game that we had never seen before up to that point. And yeah, for all those reasons, and especially, hey, call it for what it is. Maybe it's a little bit biased toward him being the biggest, baddest dude on the roster. I think that throughout history, whenever you look at combat sports, the heavyweight champion of the world is always going to be one of the most highly coveted, the most highly paid, and just the most prestigious honors that you can have. And when you have someone like him who goes out there and beats an undefeated prospect who's sent to be the strongest threat to the throne at that time, you got to give the nod to one Francis Ngannou right there.
The baddest man on the planet.
The Predator, Francis Ngannou. I can't wait to see what is next for him after he gets healed up. He just had that knee surgery a couple of weeks ago, so we should see him back in the cage before too long. Hopefully they get all the contract stuff sorted out. What did you guys think of our awards so far through Q1? Let us know what you think on the Go Fast Energy Drink hotline and text line at 303-831-1340. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz, sitting here alongside UFC middleweight Josh Fremd. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. That helps us continue to produce this original MMA content and bring it for you every single week. Tune in to the MMA Plug presented by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio on Wednesday nights from 6 to 7 p.m.
or live stream at DenverSportsBetting.com/radio.